Oh my gee williker goodness. Why do I say that? Because yes, your eyes do not deceive you. We are having a button video. Button. Finally, I am doing a video on military and uniform buttons. Now, I'm going to try to keep this straight to the point, shoot from the hip, if you will, dagger it in there, nothing like a dirk. All of those are like weaponry terms when it comes to military and uniform buttons for like law enforcement and the like. So what we're going to do is simply look at some buttons. I'm going to tell you exactly what these buttons are and like what organizations would have used them, definitely use them. And also we are going to talk about the materials that they're made out of and whatever else comes to mind. I do have, of course, you know me as usual, I have some military history for you, as well as other fun facts about uniform buttons. And I just found some more that I'm adding to this video. I'm not sure where to put these because this is pretty full. We'll put them right here. So we're going to like just kind of go through all of these and, you know, thank you all for waiting patiently for this. It has been more than a millennia, it seems, since I have put out a button video. Especially, I like doing the videos now by type so that if you guys look at the playlist for all of the button videos and you're wondering what type of what type of button this is, there's probably a video out there that tells you exactly what kind of button you have, as well as gives you a bunch of other information about said button types and the variations of those types, because that's a tricky thing with buttons. Look at all of these uniform buttons, and there's something really interesting, incredibly interesting, you're going to see when I show you one particular group of these buttons. And you can, you know, have buttons made by one company, however, based upon the request of their obvious customers, as well as any type of guidelines that have to be followed, especially when it comes to military, some of the law enforcement, etc. You know, they can't be as free, if you will, with designs, materials, and the like. So without any further ado, let's get into it. So the first ones we're going to look at are these right here. And I have to remember to put these back exactly where I got them from because I have to get them back into their own little bags. So these are United States Navy brass buttons. And they do come in a variety of sizes. So this is one of the bigger sizes, and these are for, you know, your what they call their dress uniforms. My husband was in the military for many years, and so he would, you know, have to sometimes school me on this stuff and how to clean them, etc., etc. I never clean them. He cleaned them himself. But these you can sometimes date by looking at how many stars there are. Obviously, sometimes the design changed a little bit over the millennia, over the years, but mostly the designs stayed pretty much the same. And the reason for that is you did not want, for example, your U.S. naval button to look like that of an Army National Guards person or whatever, because now there's men and women. But really cool thing about this button is, and I believe that this was to save money or to lower the cost of the button. The top is completely brass. There were the Waterbury Button Company, for example, they would create brass pewter buttons were their very first buttons that they ever created. And the creator of the Waterbury Button Company was Aaron Benedict. And when he created the company back in 1812, it was so that he could you know, make buttons and honestly make profit. He was one of those profiteering off of the war, as many hundreds, if not thousands of people did. And he didn't have materials at hand. So what he would do is purchase folks' old pewter pots and pans. After all, people are going to war. Folks are getting out of the way or abandoning things. So that was how he made the first button. So if you find first edition Waterbury Button Company buttons, they are pewter. But one of the things you'll notice is it depends on the era what these were made from. So in this case, you see that the front looks amazing. Even the edges, like they were smart enough to bevel the edges down. So this looks like a complete brass button, but as you saw me turn it over earlier for the grand reveal, the back has Bakelite and nickel. So this is like a nickel, it's not even plated, that's on the back that makes up this button. And you could tell this button is made of 1, 2, 3, 4 parts that we can see. I don't know if anything is underneath this or not. So those were our U.S. naval buttons, or some of them, because like I said, over the years, styles change. These are also Navy buttons, but these are for your everyday run around town peat coats. So you have, once again, this type of button would have been made in a variety of sizes, because you would have buttons on your cuffs, you know, going down the chest of the coat, etc. And this is the big button that would have gone down the chest so that you could secure the button. This is what the back looks like, the shank of that. You can see it, I think. 4 holes. And do I have any other information? Oh, and all of these are United States. I didn't say that yet. So here is a relatively rare button. This one is from the 1800s, and the value of this button is approximately $12, and it is a Hortsman Philadelphia button. So Philadelphia was, there you go. The outfit that used this button, they were called Hortsman, and they were out of Philadelphia. I don't know everything that they did. I have 0 clues. I'm trying to show you the button from every angle. And let me see something. Does it have words on it? No, it has a certain number of stars on it, which is, you know, sometimes how you could date some of the old buttons is, you know, looking at the stars. And then there's tons of information on the back of this button, and you can see it shanked. This one is made out of bronze. This button is a bronze button, which is, you know, kind of unusual. And then here we have a United States U.S. Marine Corps button. Let me hold it the right way. So here we are, we're in the Marine Corps now, boys. And this one was for a Philadelphia outfit, and this one is made of brass. I'm trying to stay within the frame. It's really, filming is hard sometimes. And this one also, actually this one says Hortsman on the back as well, Philadelphia. And then we have this brass domed navy, aka naval button. And this is another one that's kind of tricky, where you look at it and you think the entire button is, and I wanted to show you, you can see the dome effect there. You think the entire button is made of brass, but that is not true in this case either. This button is made from brass, but then on the back we have, once again, our famous United States steel. So it's a steel back, and the way they curve it over is so that nothing as far as the steel will show when this is properly sewed down onto the person's uniform. So, And it reminds me of, like, I hate to say this, but of like an old-fashioned army helmet. That's what it reminds me of, just by the shape. And we'll go up here, and we have a United States Air Force button. And this one was made by, let's see, Scoville? Yes, Scoville Manufacturing. Commonly, and they were out of Waterbury, Connecticut. Waterbury, Connecticut was a factory town. It's definitely not even close to a factory town nowadays. But it was, now it's a literal city, as a matter of fact, but it was a factory town. So you had Scoville that was actually established in 1802 in Waterbury, Connecticut. And then later in 1812, 10 years later, we get the Waterbury Button Company. Many times people will incorrectly state that Scoville and Waterbury Button Company are one of the same. That is absolutely incorrect. Each company had different founders. As I stated, Scoville was established in 1802, and Waterbury Button Company comes along 10 years later. Obviously, those are not the same companies, and they never merged. So that's another thing. I've never heard anyone say they merged, but people will confuse the companies and think that they were one of the same simply because you look at the back of the button and it says Waterbury. But if you do just a teeny tiny itsy bitsy, I would even say third grade research, you would find that these were two separate entities, and today they are still two separate entities. Now, what happened with Scoville is they, had a little bit of an interesting history besides being involved in wars, just like Waterbury Button Company was and other events. But Scoville actually in 1969 made the buttons that were on the Apollo 11 astronaut uniforms. So if you can find one of those, which would be really hard to do, but if you could find one of those 1969 astronaut uniforms, whatever, and it was practice uniforms as well as the ones that actually went up, then you will look at the back and you will proudly see that Scoville is represented. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people, as far as Connecticut history, may not know that fact. The other thing with Scoville is in 2011, they were purchased by Gores Group, which is Gores Group. And when they put the word group in there, it's sort of like, okay, Yves Saint Laurent, for example. He was a designer, amazing designer, one of my absolute top 5 favorites. And he died many, like probably at least 3 decades ago or something like that. And what happens is you get these conglomerates or groups that go in, and they're really sort of like investor companies that buy up companies, and then they become the owners of them. That's basically what happened to Scoville in 2011, sadly. So I don't know if the back of their buttons still say Scoville or if they say Gores Group or something else. So here we have a bunch of buttons. These are 1950s. These are silver plated. They have 13 stars, Air Force buttons as well. And these were by Scoville as well. So Scoville definitely had a market on the Air Force as far as producing those buttons. And that wasn't uncommon where, for example, the United States government, wants to take care and make sure that United States companies stayed in business, and they would spread the wealth versus putting all of their contracts with one company. I don't know if that's still the way it is today, but that is the way it was back then. And so these beautiful nickel plated or silver plated, I said nickel, but they're silver plated buttons have a, once again, steel back, but it's a polished steel. So what that does, as I stated earlier, it saves money. But once again, it's curved all the way around so that from any angle when this is on the garment, you cannot tell that the back is different. And once again, identifiers right there on the back that these are from Scoville. And also to date buttons, sometimes it might say Scoville Company, Scoville Limited, Scoville Manufacturing. It might just say Scoville. Whether it's Scoville, Waterbury Button Company, or some other company out there, and we are going to talk about this other company in a minute, you can sometimes date the buttons by the way that they are hallmarked on the back with the company's name. So here we have, because we might as well finish these up, is another style of this same button, United States Air Force. But this button is from 1947, and this button was produced until 1949, and it actually is a gold gilt. So what they did is they used a method that actually the Waterbury Button Company was very famous for, whereas, I mean, some people would ask, you know, and you could even feel the weight of this. It feels a little bit heavier. So people would be like, oh my God, that must be gold. Okay, kind of, but not really. And what Waterbury Button Company did, which Scoville copied even in this button, is they would use brass as a representer, and then they would coat it in, I believe it was 24 karat gold would be the overlay or the plating of this. And actually here you can see where some of it has rubbed off, but what they did on the back, of course, is use pure brass. So that, you know, when you look at this, once again, curved all the way around, and you can even see where some of the plating has come off. And I mean, this is an old button. I don't know what all this button has been through, but once again, this is a button that you would have worn on your Class A's or your dress uniforms. So, you know, you wanted to make sure that if anyone could see this, they're not seeing what's on the back. But once again, brilliant way to save money. And you could just take a quick gander at these. We have 1, 2, 3 different versions of the same button made by the same company. That's one of the things I wanted to show you guys is there's variation. So when you see one, you know, is one worth more than the other? It depends. How old is the button? Was it in a conflict? And you could tell if you can figure out when that particular button was made. We know exactly when that button was made. We know exactly when they stopped making that button. You could go and do a little research and see if there were any conflicts that involved the United States Air Force at that time. And if so, then you could figure out if it was in a conflict, because that does add to the provenance. So let's not get into those yet. We'll go to those later. We'll go, we did this one, we did that one. We'll go here. I kind of want to save this one. We'll do it. So this is a really special, and I believe it is a very rare button. Not saying that there aren't any more out there, but I can tell you there are very few. There's a few things about this button. The number one thing being that this is a Women's Army, or a WAC, artillery corps button. It's from World War II, so this was in a conflict, or part of a conflict, and it's made of Bakelite. Why? I hate to say it. It was for a woman's uniform. The other thing that they did do is on the back they used this nickel shank. Like there's a shank plate, and then there's the actual shank right there. So the shank plate is this flat part right here. Make sure I'm in the view. Jesus. So there's your shank plate. There is the actual shank. And this is the button. Now, one of the things with Bakelite buttons, I mean, with any Bakelite really, but definitely uniform buttons, is, you know, how can you be careful when you're cleaning these things? That's why most of the uniforms would have to go to a dry cleaner or a specialist cleaner, because Bakelite cracks, especially after it's been washed and dried and washed and dried, etc., etc. And plus, obviously, it's in weather and all sorts of things. But this button actually held up really well. I was shocked. It has no cracks in it. I've had this button for quite a while. You can see, not to be mean, but this almost looks like a female walking eagle. It does. I don't know why. To me, it does. But this is one of my favorite, of course, uniform buttons that I have. And I don't know who made it. I have zero clues. So if you guys have any information, please let me know. That would be really great for me to add it to its little history sheet there. So here we have a button that's still partially on its cardboard piece. So this has never been taken off. It says tarnish if washed. So I could tell that would say washed. So it's telling you do not wash these, they will tarnish. So that means what? It means dry cleaning. And it says Hemingway something. And this is from World War II, 1941. It's a Navy officer's button. So an officer would have had this style of button on his fancy dress. And this beautiful front would be a plated gold, which I can... Do I see any of it coming off? I thought I did, but maybe not. But then on the back, it has its brass. So once again, and is a plated gold worth anything? Honestly, you guys, not really. You would have to go through such a process to get that little micro, and I'm talking micro, amount of gold off that it would not be worth the effort. Like, I don't know of anyone that would really do that. But that's what this button is. The cool thing about it is it's still on its little presentation card. I wish I had more of it, but this is what I have. Let's see. Yep, we'll go in a row. So here we have some United States Army buttons. Once again, dress uniform buttons. And all dress uniform buttons came in a variety of sizes because, like I said, you have things on your collars, you have things that are on your cuffs, obviously the buttons that go down the chest. And these are, these are probably some of my second favorites simply because they're like this pierced design, a raised pierced design. There you go. And once again, they're made of brass. Of course, I just love the design of the button itself, the position of the eagle, the wings are flared out. You have your shields and, you know, sheaths of wheat, etc., going on. I think that's pretty cool. And on the back, it is signed, and these are by, it says Superior on the back. Superior quality. Sorry, I was like superior. It says superior quality. I am not 100% sure if these are Waterbury Button Company buttons. I sort of don't think so because in my history, as far as I know, I don't recall them ever making a button that was this style. Now this little button on the back of it, it says Waterbury Button Company. And it's for the same branch. So we're still talking a United States Army dress button here. But this one, you could tell the style is different. It's not pierced. Also, if you look at the shank, it's a little bit of a different style, kind of like a chunkier shank. Obviously, it's signed on the back, and this one is brass on the front, brass on the back. It is not plated. Next, we're going to get into some good works, which is the American Red Cross. These are Bakelite buttons, and once again, various sizes. Yes, the Red Cross nurses, doctors, etc., they had to button up their clothes too, and these were definitely for a coat, I can tell, because of the thickness. You want something hardy and sturdy. Plus, obviously, when they were wearing their scrubs or their uniforms, obviously they wouldn't have these buttons on them, but having these on your coat, especially when you're outside, dashing from place to place, ducking and dodging or whatever it was, you know, this also identified like who you were and what you were doing in that area. So these have 2 stars on the back. Let's see your 2 stars. I don't know why it says that, because I did not know this had 2 stars on the back. Why does it say that? It says 2 stars on the back. Oh, it does. They do have 2. I was like, I don't remember seeing 2 stars. I wrote this, you guys, like a long time ago. But there is 1 star is right there, where my finger is, right here. And then the other one is on the opposite side, where my thumb is, right here. So there are 2. Let me just stand up and make sure you can see this, because that is pretty cool. Yep, you can see those clearly. There's 1 star, 2 star. And you can see that this Bakelite has a little bit of cracking in it. And I have some more of these buttons, same exact buttons, but they have even more cracking in them. I have tons of these, actually. I don't know why, but I do. Oh, and you can see that there is that nickel plate on the back, shank plate. And then you can see the shank goes right through it. And the ironic thing is, once again, we're getting into using nickel. I don't know why. I mean, was nickel supposed to be super durable, or I don't know, maybe it was less expensive. Obviously, it's not going to rust. But anyway, this is a United States Marine Corps button. It has 13 stars on it. It is made of brass. This is a Waterbury Button Company button. And you can see it has that slightly raised design. It's not exactly domed like this U.S. Naval button is. You can see that's a totally different like shape. But this one definitely has a dome on it, but it's not in the same style. And this is what the back looks like. And once again, easy to identify. This one also has an item number on it, which is pretty cool because you could look up more information about it. And you can date this also as to when it was made, just by the way it says WBCO instead of having Waterbury Button Company spelled out on it, etc. And usually, like, when abbreviations were used, not all the time, but sometimes, it was because there's a conflict. We got to get this stuff out. We don't have time to be super stylish or whatever. So let's just move things along. And here we have a button that appears to be Bakelite, but it is not. It is a United States Marine Corps button. And this one has been bronzed, and this is made by Scoville, and this was their version of bronzing something. How can I say this? This is probably like one of my least favorite buttons, to be honest. Why? I just don't like the look. I don't like the look of it, you know, just being honest. But once again, you can see how they folded it around so that when this is on the garment, there is no idea that underneath it has brass. And once again, there is its identifier. However, bronzing a brass button is more expensive. So, of course, bronze it on the front, brass it in the back. I feel like that should be a thing. Oh, and here's another, what branch was this? I think this is Army. Was this the Army? Yep. Here's another version of a United States Army button. I have zero clues what this button would have been used for, if this was used during a conflict. This button doesn't have the weight and the quality that the other buttons have. Once again, I don't know who made it. You know, this is what the shank looks like. If you have any idea or any information about this, let me know. I know that when supplies are low, or, you know, we are trying to conserve because things are needed for war efforts, as I sort of alluded to earlier, lesser materials are used, designs become a little more a little less defined, you know, same design, just not as defined. And then over here, we have a wonderful set of World War I buttons, and these have the Great American Seal on them. These were also made by Scoville. So you're hearing Scoville and Waterbury Button Company quite a lot. They're made of an antique, these are an antique brass, and they say Hortsman Jaffe Company, and Jaffe is Jaffe Company on the back of them. This is what they look like. I thought there was a variation. Yeah, because I have some others that are not here. But they do have smaller sizes of these as well. These, honestly, not as well made, once again. Especially, like, this one is the best. That's the best one. But then you could see you start having steel backs instead of having brass backs. And you could see the wear there. And, you know, they're just not as nice. This one is brass on the front, a polished brass on, polished brass on the front, and just regular brass on the back. But even this, it's, you know, I don't know if this has lost some of its shininess due to the age. I mean, World War I, obviously, it's pretty old, and these were definitely used on uniforms. So that's the only reason why it's still not, you know, super shiny. But absolutely happy to have that in my collection. And here, I just decided to say, hey, or A, to my Canadian friends out there. Here is a Canadian button, and this is Arms of Canada, is what this design is. There are some words on it, which I did not translate. I assume they're Latin. Maybe they could be French. I doubt it. They're probably Latin. This is what the back looks like. Just decided to say hi to you guys. We will be traveling to Quebec City soon, so it'll be so exciting. Oh, I don't want to do that one yet. Let's go to this one. Wait a minute. Okay, yeah, so that's, and I do have more, listen, you guys. There's more uniform buttons. I just haven't identified them all. That's been the issue, is trying to identify buttons that have no identifiers. And it takes time. And plus, I like to verify and re-verify just to make sure that what I'm telling you is correct. So next, what we're going to get into are some other uniform buttons. So for example, and one of you guys sent this to me. I wish I could remember who. I wish I had written it on the little note. But this is a State of New Jersey Division of Motor Vehicles button. An auto inspector would have worn this on their uniform. This is the seal for the state of New Jersey. You guys, New Jersey must be doing a little bit better than we thought, because this is a really nice button. Loved the design. And for you to, you know, have this approved as a uniform button, that's pretty damn cool. This is what the back of it looks like. Once again, thank you to this button manufacturer for putting some identifiers on the back. So New Jersey came over to good old Waterbury, Connecticut, and had this button made by, I want to say it's, let's see if it told me. It said Waterbury, Connecticut, Inc., something Inc. Waterbury, made by, I believe it's a Waterbury Button Company. So how unusual is that to have such a fancy button? So next time you go to the DMV, I don't know, I mean, it's 2023, people wear like garbage to work, and had been starting wearing garbage to work probably in the 2000s. And so, you know, do they still wear uniforms? If so, check out their buttons and see what's on their chest. without being vulgar, of course. So these are Chicago Transit Authority buttons. These are super cool. These were sent to me by one of you guys, and a guy that's actually, I think he's out of, like, up in Illinois. I love the shininess of these buttons. They're made of a nickel on the front, and then they're like a stainless steel in the back. And once again, you could see that they're marked, which is always amazing because it's a little bit easier to get more history about these buttons. And once again, these are by the Waterbury Button Company. And you have your multiple sizes. They're the same exact button, just, you know, you have your mom and you have your little baby. And let's go to this one since it's moving around so much. Ooh, my board is moving too. There you go. So here we have another uniform button, and this one is what does it say? I am not this blind. It says Lennon Valley, like L-E-N-I. Oh, Lehigh Valley. It says Lehigh Valley. Actually, if I put it in the camera, it actually does magnify it. But Lehigh Valley, there's a star on the left, star on the right. There's, you know, the LV in the middle of the diamond that's on the flag. I don't know what this button was used for, so if you guys have any clue, let me know. This is the maker that's on the back, and I will read that up close. It says Browning King and Co. So Browning King and Co. I might do a little more research on this button just to see like what history I could find out about it. One of the things I was like looking up because I want to know, like, obviously Waterbury Button Company, Scoville Button Company, you go back and forth. It's a tug of war. You know, what other companies were making, you know, uniform buttons here in the United States? And there were a few others. One that I thought was interesting was the Ohio Bag Company. They were in business starting in 1908. So not in the 1800s, but 1908. And interestingly enough, they're still in business. So I just thought that that was an interesting fact. So if you find any of their buttons and you don't want them, you know, my address and information is down in the description of this video because I would love to have a couple for my collection. And here we have a coppers button, a state police button. And I did not look up the state for this particular button, but on the back it says superior quality. So that's another thing is someone was putting, I think that these are Waterbury Button Company buttons from when there was a short period of time. And I actually have a video about, I will try to remember to attach it to this particular video so you guys could check it out in the description as well as in the comments about the history of the Waterbury Button Company, and I also show you some really rare buttons in that video. You might actually have some in your collection, so check it out. But there was a very short time where the Waterbury Button Company was owned by a different company, and they were not using Waterbury Button Company's hallmark, aka they had a variety of hallmarks, the Waterbury Button Company, over time, and they decided not to use any of them. And so there was a time when their buttons were marked superior quality, or they had no markings on the back at all, or they had what I call or nicknamed the tire mark on the back, because the back of it sort of reminded me of an automobile tire. So after a while, they realized that people were like, yeah, but, we always use the Waterbury Button Company. We'll go start looking around to see if someone else will make these buttons for us. And the company, and it was a conglomerate, just like the Gore Company or Gore Group, which purchased Scoville in 2011. And that conglomerate learned, unlike the Gore Group, apparently, and they said, you know what? We're not just making, and they weren't. Waterbury Button Company always made a variety of products. It could be anything from an escutcheon to of course, a badge, or it could be buttons or other little components, whatever. And so because that name was so recognized across the world, they decided to go back to using the Waterbury Button Company name. And so today, you can still buy things that will have the words or the logo or the hallmark for the Waterbury Button Company on it. So that was a lesson learned for them. So here we have a button that is really interesting. It's a Connecticut Home Guard. I don't even know if we still have a Home Guard here in Connecticut, but this is one of their buttons, and this is a pretty big button. Let me get my $50. We can do a comparison. So that's a pretty big button in comparison to the silver $50. It's, it's thick, it's pretty large and in charge. It has a little bit of weight to it, definitely more so than the others. It's brass on the front, it's brass on the back, and this was made by Scoville as well. Let's look at these. Oh, did I show you this? Nope. Yes, I did. That's State Police. Here we have, this one says City of Chicago. Cool. This is from the Chicago Police Department. One of their uniform buttons. Brass all the way around. And this one was made by, let's magnify it here. It says Waterbury, and what else does it say? I think it says Scoville. Yes, it does. It says Scoville right there. So you can see Scoville was busy. Here's this one, it's easy because the letters are large and in charge. And this one says quality or extra quality on it. It's a Waterbury Button Company button for New York City in particular. So being very particular, we're NYC. And we're so bad ass in a good way that all we have to do is put our initials there. So many times people find this button and they don't know what that means, the POD. All that means is that this is a button that was issued for the Postal Service. So this is a Post Office Department button. That's what POD means, Post Office Department. Also known as a USPS here. And this is a really cute little button done by, oops, I thought it was in the view, by the Waterbury Button Company. Once again, all of its information is on the back. Oh, here's a really cool one that I looked at earlier. This says City of Augusta. So I didn't know I had any Southern stuff represented here, but apparently I do. And on the back it says extra quality, but this is for the City of Augusta, Georgia. And I don't know what that is in the middle, like, oh, is that the GA? But it's supposed to, yeah, it's like a fancy GA, except for the G looks like something else. The A definitely looks like an A. This is what the back of it looks like, all brass. And there are people who just collect, like, uniform buttons that are have nothing to do with the military, which is why I decided to represent them here. And for my British folks, I have some buttons that are from the British Royal Navy. These are brass. And Americans, you will see that in comparison to our button, there's some similarities and definite differences. One, we don't have a crown on top of the anchor. We have an eagle, okay? And also our buttons seem to be a little fancier. I love that braid scroll work that's around the perimeter of this button. So they didn't just, you know, bevel it. And then these are brass all the way around. The back has this, you know, less expensive brass. And then here you have the plated brass on the front. So I just had to make sure I got something in there for my folks that are from the United Kingdom. We have people that watch the videos that are from Germany, France, England, the list goes on and on, Canada. So thank you guys for tuning in. Here are some fire department buttons. You know, I had to make sure there was some of those in there. There's one from Boston, and then there's the other one that's from Baltimore. So do you notice anything? Yeah, they look exactly the same, except for the fact that one says City of Boston and the other says City of Baltimore. So these were made by the same company. One is older than the other. That's why you can see there's a little color variation. And on the back, there's the Scoville information. And Waterbury, of course, is where that they came out of. And these are nickel. And then we have one here that is for New York. It's the same. It looks exactly the same as the other two. The only difference is this button is bigger. It's not big, it's just bigger than the other two. And once again, you know, it's by Scoville. Made of the same material. This one I thought was really interesting. I just love the font that was used on this. But this is the City of Roanoke Police. I believe that's Roanoke. Is that New Jersey? I think so. It's a, you know, just a very different style button. Scoville, once again, you see that it's Waterbury back there. Just, let me see what the shank looks like. Nope, looks like the same shank as the other ones. But look at this font, though. That's like, they were like, we're going to be cool and groovy about it. And then we have this one, which is also the City of Roanoke. But as you can see, different material, same font. And once again, this is a Scoville button. And this one you could tell was never used because it still has that little card holder on the back. Without the card, of course. And I think that's it for now, you guys. So do I have more? Yes, there's a lot more. But I just did not want to wait before I showed you guys these buttons. Now, this is a button that I would really like to see if you guys can find any more information about her. Once again, and this is the back, she is a Women's Army Artillery Corps button from World War II. Those are facts. Also called the WAC. This button is made of Bakelite. Like I said, you can see it has that nickel. I heard something weird. That nickel plate on the back for the shank, and then the shank is inserted. And this is what it looks like on the front. And I'll even show you the edges. So thank you guys for tuning in to the Velvet Lounge Life. Please remember to subscribe to the channel. It really helps me a lot. Thanks to you guys, I finally put this video out there because people, you know, asked for it several times over the last couple of months. People seem to really be looking at the button videos again. I really appreciate it, especially you guys. Welcome, fellows, to the Velvet Lounge Life. Us ladies here invite everyone in. And please, like I said, leave comments below if you have any. If you have more information about anything that you saw here today, I love to learn, so please educate me. Also, if you have any good references for military buttons, that would be fun if you could share those links in the description. Make sure you check out the description of the video because there are links in there for you guys as well. So anyway, thank you. I'm going to say good day, good night, good evening, good afternoon, and be well.